Shalom Israel. First, I want to start by giving all honor, praises, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachach Kodash, which is the true name of the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, whom the world ignorantly called God and Jesus Christ. Bahashem, meaning in the name of the Rachach Kodash, or Spirit Holy or Holy Spirit. Double honors unto the elders, apostles, and bishops of GMS, Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edify. And peace and blessings unto you, hopefully elect the Akim and Akwat in this household of faith. My name is Yeshaya of the GMS Arizona Church, Ottawa, Ratazah, meaning Lord willing. Gonna make an edifying video going into these SNAP benefits being cut off. You're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna be put in a very bad situation with that, being the fact that going into the United States Census, 110 million people are on some form of government aid, whether it be on the SNAP benefits or, things like Medicare. So that's 1 in every 3 people in the United States. Okay, so likely a lot of, 33% of the people of the United States are about to be affected by this, coming November the 1st, when they're not going to have that food to their access. Okay, and with that being said, that's going to cause an uproar. And I'm just going to get into a couple of these videos. Got here on Instagram of a couple of Jake women saying a couple pieces about, their SNAP benefits being cut off.
I just got that text that the link is definitely cut the fuck off for November. Y'all better stay the fuck out of my way in these stores. I'm walking out with cards and I'm not paying for shit. Trump, if you want motherfuckers start looting, it's gonna happen. Before my kids go broke in this bitch like Jock, I'm gonna be stealing like it ain't no tomorrow. I'm going to go in that store, get everything I get regularly. I'm going to bag my shit, swipe my link card, food that bitch say, ain't no pin to balance on there. I'm going to walk the fuck out. And I'm gonna have one of my cousins with me that'll punch your so hard you gonna think a jet 2 holiday hit your bitch ass. If you think I ain't gonna walk out this stuff. And please follow me to that motherfucking car. If you feeling motherfucking frog bitch, you ain't gonna make it back to your motherfucking position.
First thing I'm gonna do.
And the
I'm telling you, this is gonna be a thing. People are gonna start, instead of stealing groceries from the stores, they're gonna start watching people go to their cars. And they're going to take all of their groceries. And you know what the store going to do? Not our problem. Not our business. It's outside the store. They didn't do it in the store. It's not our property. Call 911. Call the authorities. Make a report. They're going to leave your ass for dead. And people are really going to be stealing people carts of groceries out of the grocery parking lot. I'm telling you, it seems like it's headed that way now.
Okay, and these 2 women, looking like they're supposedly from the tribe, could be from the tribe of Judah. And one thing about Judah is that, as long as they have, their peace, it's almost like they're like a lion that could be tamed. Okay, so being the fact that they won't have their food and the resources, especially to those that care much for their seed, is going to put these people in a state of anger and riotness. Okay. So Genesis 49, starting at verse 8, says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. For the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stood down and crouched down as a lion, and who shall rouse him up? So being the fact that Judah got what they wanted, man. You seen Judah, with that, the intensity and the drive that they have back during, earlier times, post transatlantic slave. Okay, you see people, you see Judah come up with these, political parties for them to be able to have a peace in this land, which isn't backed by the Lord ultimately, because they did it just to be in conjunction with Esau, right? And all Esau had to do is just give them a little bit of education, a couple white bitches and some food, and they didn't give a fuck, okay? And that's the spirit too currently. But once Esau stops being able to give that handout to certain things that they're so used to getting from Esau, you're going to see these Jakes, turn back to that nature that they have. Judah is a real jump out guy. Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin. There's a lot of Benjamites here, which is the so-called Jamaicans. They're crazy, okay? Jamaica is the murder capital of the world. Southern Kingdom, they do what they got to do, and with that passion, especially being the fact that they don't have the things that they're used to having. Okay, they're feeling, they're gonna have that shit taken away from them. Sirach, the 39th chapter, and starting at the 26th verse, the principal things of the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour for wheat, honey, milk, and blood of the grape, oil, and clothing. And it says, so these are the foundational things for humanity that men use in life, okay? To feed yourself, to clothe yourself, food and raiment. So going down to the verse 28, it says, the spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes in the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail, famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Highlighting the famine and death, okay? Because a lot of people are gonna get robbed. A lot of people are gonna get, their food taken from them, in that famine. In times of famine, people turn animalistic and they do whatever they have to do. They'll start hunting for that food. Okay, you're gonna see a lot more dine and dashing, like the Jake woman said earlier in the video. The sister was saying, people gonna steal your groceries, and Esau ain't gonna help you. They might have stupid things like, putting security in certain Walmarts, but the fuck is security gonna do when you got everybody trying to do it? You know what I mean? Especially in places where people don't have a lot to lose anyways. Okay? Judah's hard-headed as fuck. Southern Kingdom is very hard-headed. Being the fact that Southern Kingdom is very hard-headed, you can't tell them shit. You can tell them rules and regulations, but if they hungry, they don't give a fuck. Okay? They do what they got to do to get what they need. Especially when you have, people that are passionate about their families, they're going to have their sons and daughters starving. And those SNAP benefits are keeping them from being able to eat, or are keeping them being able to eat. Okay? So, being the fact that you take that food away, and how crazy Jake is about to get with that food being taken away, redeeming the times, be circumspect. Go ahead and get Ephesians, the 5th chapter. In the 14th verse, it says, therefore he said, awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and a Mashiach shall give thee light. Okay, so, walking in ways of wisdom. Right? Awake, thou that sleepest. It says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the times, because the days are evil. And that is very true. The days are evil. Redeeming the times and being circumspect. Circumspect, part of... I'm actually going to get the definition for that word circumspect. Bear with me for one moment. Okay. It says akribos. And it says accurately, diligently, coming from the stem word of akribes. And it says of strict sect, the most precise, rigorous in interpreting. So basically a high level of, paying attention at a high level, being careful, being exact. Okay, so with that being said, being circumspect of your situation and the things that are at hand would mean that you're paying very close attention to the times that we're in. Okay, you're measuring the times diligently. A part of these times you're gonna have things like famines that are gonna come to fruition. Right? We're waiting for a few of the last major prophecies to pop off. You got World War III. Okay, you got the mandation of the MOTB, and we at the beginning of Jacob's trouble, when that's gonna actually be, it's gonna intensify from here. So being the fact that it's gonna intensify from here, be circumspect of the times that that we're in. People are going to go hungry. People aren't going to have the food. People aren't going to have the drink. All right, the mirth is going to truly cease from this place. I believe Isaiah, the 24th chapter. It says, Isaiah 24:7. It says, the new wine mourneth, the vine languish, and the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of tabrets cease, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down, every house is shut up, that no man may come in. There's a crying for wine in the streets, all joy is darkened, and the mirth of the land is gone. So, at the end of the day, the joy of this place is going to be, set apart. You ain't going to have people partying and clubbing as much, right, when they don't even have fucking food to eat. They can't use the EBT to go get a bottle of wine. You know what I mean? I'm not too sure how that works, but, they can't fucking, use those government benefits. These motherfuckers going to have to go back to work. And if they're not going to go back to work, they're going to go to steal. You already know how niggas get it. They either get it through the 9 to 5 or they get it through the fucking, through that sorcery and shit. Selling drugs, robbing people, fucking doing all this wicked shit, okay? People are going to take their focus off of the joy, and they're going to actually put their focus on the fact that they're fucking hungry, that they're going to sleep starving, that their kids are going to sleep starving. The fact that they're eating Dollar Tree ramen noodles to fucking suffice, okay? So at the end of the day, that's the times that we're in, and people are going to start ramping up that spirit of robbery. People going to start jumping out with all that shit. And another thing to be aware of is as people start robbing for food, especially being the fact that people are likely going to use guns or some type of weapon, you already know Esau has already introduced this martial law, and he'll start putting government forces in these certain places that people are robbing and intensify the spirit that's there because people are already using weapons to rob people for food. Which gives Esau his little say-so to be like, okay, well, I'm going to put the government there with their guns, and I wish they would do something about it. And guess what? That's when you're going to start having feuds and people butting heads. You got people butting heads, all that's going to happen is Esau's going to intensify. Probably going to close out with Revelation 12 and verse 12. And it reads, Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So when you have these robberies, when you have people using guns to get food, and when you have all this bullshit happening in this earth, Esau putting out martial law in those certain places. Okay, you already know how Jake gets rowdy, and Esau is going to come right back with that same spirit. But I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to last to give all the praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom.